Hello and welcome to Creature Club, a podcast where we talk about monsters in D&D. I am Mikey, and joining me today is Daniel.
Hello.
And Tim.
Here, as always, as of the last week.
Yeah. On this show, we like to talk about everything that goes into these monsters. Be their history, if they have any in the outside world, and history in the D&D world. And we talk about the stat block and how we would use them in our encounters / settings. And today we are doing the Cambion, the demonic evil boy from evilness. How are we anyway, guys? How are we this week?
I'm pretty good.
Pretty good. Feeling good.
This is the first of our C's.
It is, yeah. We're
Jump
here.
into the sea.
We're getting there. We're slowly getting through this book.
There's a lot of C's, by the way.
Oh no.
Yeah, we're gonna be on seas for a while, and some of my favorite ones are in here. So we have them to look forward to.
So what does this guy look like for the people at home?
The Cambion in the D&D setting is a humanoid form that is pretty gosh darn demonic looking. Like the tieflings have their own kind of demonic look, but the Cambions have the very distinct leathery wings of the demonic creatures. They have the long curling tails, but they have smaller horns on top of their heads than tieflings typically would.
So very stereotypical, the devil kind of looking guy.
That classic devil.
Yeah.
You know, Cambions are the devil.
Actually, more of like a classic human devil.
Yeah,
they're those kind of classic depictions.
They're kind of they can appear in a lot of different forms, but the sort of hallmarks of a Cambion are that they are a humanoid shape, but they bear the features of a demon. Most importantly, they have kind of leathery wings and a tail. Those would be the two things there. Skin can vary between kind of greys and reds and blacks, obviously. They might even have other colors as well. They'd often have horns and sharpened teeth, but the main things would be the wings and the tail. Would be the kind of easy giveaway.
Yeah. So for you guys who don't know, a Cambion in D&D specifically is the offspring of a fiend, usually a succubus or an incubus, and a humanoid, usually a human. But like in mythology, they've been a kind of the spawn of either like a succubus or incubus or a demon. So they kind of go with, in D&D, they go with the broad sense of it now. So
yeah, like for their slightly more in-depth history in like the real world, well, we say real world, the whole demonic thing is, you know, a little iffy with scientists and all that. But the kind of ideas have kind of been thrown around a lot throughout history about how the specific type of Cambion is made. Like, there are theories that it has to go from like a male into a succubus and then transferred into an incubus and then transferred back into a female woman for a Cambion to be made. It basically has to pass through like the whole circle of creatures in this instance.
Yeah, we were laughing about this before recording, but there's a lot of like red tape like that goes into making a Cambion.
Yeah. Have you passed through the female succubus yet?
Yep. A lot of forms that have to be filled out.
Red tape and bureaucracy in the demon world. You know, they're all about their rules and contracts, so they have to have everything in writing. It's just very dramatic.
Yeah. But I think with D&D, it's classically just, demon, human. There we go. That's all you need, you know.
Yeah, there used to be two kinds. There was the Cambion and there was something else. There was like the Alu Fiend was the female version. So Cambions were exclusively male, and an Alu Fiend was a female equivalent. And they've kind of since done away with that and just gone like they're all Cambions because you don't need that many things. What's interesting, actually, sorry, Tim, is there anything else about the real history you'd like to mention before
not terribly much. There's varying theories about how they are made and how they interact, but usually the kind of depictions are kept pretty, pretty solidly through most of the history. Like, they will be born of the mother and they will have either a normal body and until they're 7, and then they'll develop these slightly more demonic features, or they will have a normal body but they won't have any breath or pulse to them. Like, they'll act perfectly normally, but like they won't breathe or have any kind of heartbeat, obviously, until they're 7. Typically, the kind of cutoff age is 7, which I think is, I'm not sure of the specific stage of life that is for humans. I think there is a developmental stage that kicks in around about 7 for humans for like brain development. I think that's kind of self-awareness and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So it's basically when they're able to protect themselves and kind of fend for themselves after that point.
So the thing I was going to talk about was the Cambion's been in every edition of the game since Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. It was in the second monster manual, where I don't know if you know this, but like back then they used to have this idea that like it was just like it would be like demon level X, and then they would have like a title. Mm-hmm. So it would be like, you know, demon level 3, or like demon level 1 might be like imps, for example, and then it would scale up to like, I think demon level 6 was the Balor. I could be wrong.
Cool.
So like that was the idea. Like, so now we just have like names for all of them, but it used to kind of be the idea that like they had like levels first and then kind of suggested names, or maybe even that your demons could be a little different. So they appeared as sort of a mid-level demon, as far as I can tell. The first edition monster manual entries are unsurprisingly a little confusing for someone who's not familiar with the system. But they are kind of like mid-level demons. They've got some cool demon powers, but they like kind of pull some stats from being human and stuff like that. In the second edition, they were, it's interesting. In the second edition, a lot of demons were like relabeled as Tanari, Tana, or apostrophe or I.
Right.
2 ors with an apostrophe in the middle. So, and they do that a little bit. And then they didn't appear at all in third edition. And I was trying to figure out if that was something to do with like the moral controversy. The moral controversies. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got there eventually. Around Dungeons and Dragons and Satanism, all that stuff. But it was very late. Like third edition came out in 2000, so I don't think that's likely. So I thought that was
that was around the 80s. All that.
Exactly. Yeah. They weren't in third edition, as I said. They were in 3.5. They appeared briefly as a player race, and then they were in fourth edition. There was 2 different Cambions, which we'll get to when we talk about stat blocks and stuff like that, because we might steal some things from them, as we always do. And then they're in fifth edition, and that's kind of it. They're kind of. Yeah, they're exactly as they appear. Like there's one in Dungeon Magazine 13. Unlucky. In Dungeon Magazine 13, there's an adventure for. I've got it here. It says for 6 to 8 characters of levels 5 to 8. 6 to 8 characters. Like that tells you what kind of games people were running back then. Like I could not run a game for 8 people. I really like this. A well-balanced party is recommended, containing a minimum of 2 fighter types, 1 thief, 1 or more magic users, and at least 1 cleric of up to 7th level. Because basically it's the party are going to go into a castle and there's a Cambion mucking around and there's some undead and blah blah blah. But they have to be like sneaky, because otherwise they alert the Cambion and then the Cambion will just jump them later. It seems like an interesting idea for an adventure anyway. Kind of like this one kind of powerful enemy in a keep, and if they ever like make the wrong move, it suddenly knows they're there. And it's actually like that core hook of the adventurers are somewhere, they're in the bad guy's lair, and like anytime they do anything, the bad guy knows about it, and they have to try and be as quiet for as long as possible. There's a lot of good mileage there. But that's not specific to the Cambion, although Cambion's good for it, because obviously Cambion can fly and polymorph and stuff like that. Anyway,
they can polymorph.
In this edition they could. In first edition, a polymorphs could Cambion. Now they can only alter self. But back then, because they were demons, they could just polymorph.
That's pretty cool.
Which is very cool. But I'm sorry, I've talked for far too long.
That's all right. That's fine.
Will we jump into the present day Cambion?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they are born to be bad. It says here that Cambions grow into ruthless adults whose wickedness and perversion horrifies even the most devoted mortal parent. Even as a youth, a Cambion identifies its rightful place as an overlord of mortals. It might orchestrate uprisings in towns and cities, gathering gangs of humans or humanoids and lesser devils to serve it, which is pretty hardcore, I think.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool. That's a pretty cool villain idea already for like a low-level party. Just like this one Cambion that showed up and is just wrecking shop in a town. That's it. There you go. Yeah. There's a villain.
Because it's like everybody is happy to fight demons. Like, like if you want to be friends with demons, you know, that's a little tricky one to pull off, because like I think tieflings are kind of free from that expectation of demonicness. Like they have fiendish heritage, but they're just another dude, you know?
Yeah. They're just another friend.
They're just flens you haven't made yet. I guess you could say they're just fiends you haven't made yet.
Oh my gosh. Oh no.
I'm so proud of myself.
No, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be.
I'm proud of you, Daniel.
You're off the podcast, Daniel.
Ah, beans. I knew this day would come.
Next, let's just forget about this.
let's just do the carrion crawler instead.
Yeah, we don't need to do the Cambion. Like, let's just move on. It's already ruined.
Yeah. The next short paragraph is titled "Pawns of the Mighty," and it goes into how they are raised in the Nine Hells as basically servants to just greater devils, and how that they basically can only gain rank through their own kind of force of will, which I think is kind of par for the course for kind of devils. Is it devils or demons?
No, they're devils, because the hells are devils, abyss is demons. Devils are the ones who make deals, and demons just eat you.
Yeah.
It's the difference between lawful and chaotic evil. On the alignment. That's the inspiration for the two different kind of evil places.
But that's actually interesting, though, because it says here that it's an offspring of a fiend, and it says any evil alignment. So a Cambion that you make in your setting can be, you know, the offspring of any fiend. So it can either be a demon or a devil.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I think the inspiration for that is both that, like, it can be the offspring of different things, but also the idea that, like, because it's not all devil or demon, it's a little bit mortal, and it's got that uncertainty as a result.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
It could also be, the first thought that I had thinking that was that it's kind of evil is kind of uniform in the universe, maybe. So that, like, if it's a devil or it's a demon, it doesn't matter. It's going to produce the same kind of offspring, this Cambion. Getting back on track, Pawns of the Mighty, they are basically just like...
if they end up in hell rather than on Earth, or whatever you call it in your game.
Plane.
Yeah, exactly. Then, like, they'll serve as kind of an underling for their parent. It doesn't seem to suggest that they have any special rank. It's not like feudal societies where the child of a noble is also kind of noble, like that's like a noble birth, and they have their own privileges. That it does seem to suggest to an extent that they aren't treated especially because of their heritage, which is interesting. And even twisting that on its head could be interesting. The idea that, like, a group of Cambions would all be serving a demon lord with the expectation that, like, one of them will inherit its throne, and maybe their politics against one another could be pretty cool. Of course. And then it references both the Nine Hells and the Abyss, because a Cambion can be either demon or devil-born. So in the Nine Hells, because it's orderly, they'll serve a devil in a sort of feudal system. So they'll be like a knight or a messenger or some other kind of appropriate role. But then in the Abyss, because it's chaotic, it's just about force of will and strength of arm.
Yeah, so it is saying here that it can be either both. Then.
Yeah,
yeah.
Exactly. As you said, DC, it can be any fiend. And I think that's why there's sort of any evil alignment, because the idea is that you can be from anywhere. I think they used to also have the difference between, there was the Nine Hells, there was the Abyss, and then there was Pandemonium, which is the specifically chaotic evil, and the Abyss was like neutral evil. Although, you know, the cosmology of your D&D setting is very much up to you. And like, you know, I like to just simplify it and just say, like, there's the bad down under place where you don't want to go, and there's the good up place where you do want to go. And then there's all the spaces in between, which are fine mostly.
And you got to have at least the plane of fire, because whoever goes there is instantly on fire. Yeah,
instantly immolated.
Yeah, just one place of fire. That's not even hell. That's just a different fireplace.
It's just Fireland.
Everyone knows the rules of the plane of fire as soon as you go there. And then and then the final section is just about a demon lord called Gratz, who it uses the term here. The demon lord Gratz is fond of procreating with humans. Gross.
Gross.
Too much information. Thanks, Monster
This
Manual.
demon lord's gonna get cooties. Sorry, continue.
And so as a result, they have lots of cambions, and it specifies these cambions are characterized by their charcoal black skin, cloven hooves, 6-fingered hands, and unearthly beauty. Have you seen a 6-fingered man?
I mean, those last two words are kind of contradicted by the rest. They're like cloven hooves and 6-fingered hands and unearthly beauty.
Well, it is unearthly.
You know?
Yeah.
It's magic, too.
It's magically beautiful.
It's magic.
Dance, magic dance. So I don't know why it came to my head.
It's actually because the Goblin King. It's actually pretty appropriate.
You know, because you said magic in a very Bowie-like way. So
Bowie.
We also have another nice little quote from Baba Yaga in this our lovely monster manual.
It's not very nice.
It's a strange one, all right.
It's fine.
It goes. They crawl from their mother's wombs to spread corruption throughout the multiverse. What's not to love? This is assuming... I don't know Baba Yaga personally, but she doesn't sound like a particularly, awful, good kind of type.
Baba Yaga is one of the demon lords of the abyss, if I recall correctly.
Ah, there you go.
I do feel like any quote that has the word multiverse in it immediately becomes slightly unwieldy. Like if it just said throughout the world, we'd be like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But every single one wants corruption in the multiverse. That's a lot of work for every single one,
I mean, like,
you gotta work on multiple planes.
Really, this one half demon's gonna corrupt the entire multiverse. Really? I don't believe that.
Although, if I would be allowed to look ahead,
no,
they do have
no, we're gonna get there. We're literally about to do that.
Okay. You know the rules.
All right, well, we could jump in, and I'll call back to this.
All right, ring the dinner bell.
Let's ring the dinner. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. It's
I love
dinner.
that sound.
Meat and potatoes.
Let's go to dinner town.
All right,
Hello.
so
Welcome.
we're here.
Sorry.
Take a seat.
That was a fun little journey we had there.
It was. The queue was long.
The queue was long.
So long.
Okay, so Cambion, medium fiend, any evil alignment, as expected. As we discussed before, they can be the offspring of any sort of demonic creature or devil creature, and as a result, their alignment can vary, both depending on their demonic, their infernal origin, I suppose, to use a more generic term, but also the sort of their position in the world and how they grow up, and maybe their own influences on the material plane. They've got a very high armor class of 19.
Yeah.
That's a result of a couple of different things, which we'll get to. They've got a good number of hit points. They're fairly tough. They have the same speed as an adventurer, 30 feet, and they also have a fly speed of 60 feet, which is very good. It's very, very good.
Exceptionally fast.
They've got a really good stat line. They've got basically nothing is lower than 12, and everything gives a bonus, and everything is they basically have no bad stats, and they're
just superior to baseline humanoid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're kind of like, they're a great example of a mixture between kind of a heroic stat line and almost a monster stat line. So they've basically got really strong numbers across the board.
Cool. So saving throws, got a bunch of good ones. Strength +7, con +6, intelligence +5, charisma +6. So
its only bad saving throws are dexterity and wisdom, which is actually kind of interesting because those are two of the most frequent ones. So maybe that's deliberate. Maybe the idea is that the two most frequent ones are its only weaknesses, but it has a lot, so that if they try anything weird, it's a little better off. Skills, deception, intimidation, both make sense. Perception, you just kind of give that to monsters so that they don't get sneak attacked, I guess.
Yeah.
And then a really good stealth bonus, which makes sense because they've got very high dexterity. They've got kind of the generic demonic resiliences, where which is they resist cold, fire, lightning, and non-magical weapon damage.
And poison.
Oh, sorry, and poison, yes.
Don't forget poison, Daniel. Come on.
Come on, guys. Dwarves resist poison. Poison's not a big deal.
And they have some pretty nice senses. They got the old dark vision up to 60 feet.
Yep.
And a passive perception of 14, which is,
Yeah, it's not bad.
Middle of the road kind of thing.
And they speak Abyssal, Common, and Infernal. Is that going with the idea that it can either be Abyssal or Infernal because it's either demon or devil? Or are they just going to give them both?
I was thinking the same thing, DC. I think the idea is that they might be Abyssal or Infernal, and you could change it depending on their background. But a default Cambion maybe has both. And maybe the idea is it's more to represent that they are touched by the lower planes.
Yeah. Okay. And he has a challenge rating of 5.
Which means that 4 level 5 adventurers could beat up this guy, which of course they could. There's 4 of them and 1 of him.
Yeah.
or them. Okay, so the first ability, this relates to their very high AC we mentioned before. Fiendish Blessing. The AC of the Cambion includes its charisma bonus, which is obviously very, very good, because that basically means it gets dex plus charisma plus whatever armor it's wearing. In this case, it's wearing scale mail, which is medium armor, which means it's only getting a +2 from its dex, which is surprising, because it might actually be higher if it switched to light armor, but I wouldn't know about, because that would be +7, and then if they wore +2 armor, that would be the same, actually.
Yeah. And that means it's relatively simple to beef him up or beef him down, or just change the armor.
Yeah, it's interesting, actually, because it's a great example of a creature where you could very happily take off their armor and they would still have very good AC. In fact, I would almost be inclined to say that in general I might do that. I might have the Cambion not fight with any armor, because an AC of 17 against a level 5 party means that they'll hit a good amount of the time, but it'll still be a tough enemy, but it won't be a frustratingly tough enemy.
Yeah, well, I think that would kind of depend on how I think your players got to them. Like, if they were trying to assassinate the Cambion or something and caught him unawares, he would have the armor class of 17, which might be a bonus to your players for playing the kind of stealth game. But if they charge in, letting it know, it's gonna be ready for them with a bit of armor, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I it's not a case for me of preparedness. It's more a case of, as a general rule, the AC of your monsters shouldn't go above 18 if you want because once this is a design thing. This is my philosophy, because once you go above that number, your players will start to miss a lot. And what you are doing when you increase the AC is you're just making it so that the boss is harder to kill. And there's another way to do that called hit points. And the thing is that when the players hit the monster and deal damage and it has more hit points, they feel good because they're making progress. But if they roll, and let's take a simple example. Let's say somebody is let's say someone's a spellcaster, so that realistically at a lot of time they'll make 1 spell attack every round. If they miss every round, they're just going to have a bad time in the encounter. And so the difference between saying, okay, they have an AC of 17 and they're not going to wear any armor, but I'm going to give them another 40 hit points, right? So they're still tough, and they'll feel tough, and you'll get good hits in and they'll stay standing. But you'll never have that moment where you just go, it's been 3 rounds and my character has done nothing.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It feels better for your players to actually do damage.
Exactly.
They won't get bored going I'm missing this guy all the time. This I feel like crap.
How often have you had a player after 2 rounds of missing go, I can't hit this guy. Is there something else I can do? You know what I mean? How often has that happened in a game? And even if that's the thing, if you literally just twist that on its head and say, okay, it hasn't got any armor, but I'm going to give it another 40 hit points. The players are never going to realize it has another 40 hit points, because they're just hitting it and they feel good because they're contributing.
Yes.
Nice.
Anyway, sorry.
Fantastic.
Bit of a rant there. I apologize, but it's
worthy tangent. That was a good point. Very good point.
It's just something it's something. Basically, it's a mistake I made in the campaign I ran for you guys that I still feel was probably my biggest mistake of that entire campaign. There was a couple of other things that I think I could have done better, but that is, in my opinion, my biggest mistake. So I'm very aware of exactly what I did wrong.
I don't even remember that.
Well, that's the thing. That's the curse of the DM is you guys had great fun, and so I consider it it a great success. But I know I made the enemy's ACs too high, and I shouldn't have done that. And I think we were okay because everyone had a lot of magic items. But I know for the future not to do that.
Yeah.
Because I'm in another game that could have really frustrated all my players, and it would have meant that they would have a much less fun. Anyway.
Innate spell casting. It means that he just has spells that he can cast without using a magical focus. He has a spell casting ability. He uses charisma, spell save DC 14. He has 3 a day for each. He has alter self, command, and detect magic. And once per day, he has plane shift on himself only. So just a couple spells, nothing really, no like attack spells or anything. Just a couple like utility stuff. He has the plane shift, so he can actually go back to his own. He can go back to the hells or wherever he is from. So unlike the when we were talking about the angels a while back, who just couldn't move.
Isn't it interesting to think about how this is a challenge rating 5 demon? It has plane shift, and the highest level angels were like challenge rating 20 and still couldn't go home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or no, like the highest level angel could go home, but a higher level spell. It was like a weirder way of doing it. So
the plane shift lends itself as a callback to what we were talking about earlier with the quote to allow them to spread corruption into the multiverse. Yeah, that was the reference I was going to make earlier.
Oh, yeah. That's right. But he's still just one guy. He can't. If he goes to the plane of fire, then he's going to burn alive. We already,
But he does have resistance DC, so he'll burn for twice as long.
Yeah. Just
let's light up like a candle.
He can get a little more work done.
Cambion would make a very good candle. They burn for twice as long.
Okay, so actions. He has multi-attack. Cambion makes 2 melee attacks or uses fire ray twice. We'll get to the fire ray. He has a spear on him right now. Or you can give him like a trident or like a bident or something.
Or a bident.
Or a pitchfork.
We had a game recently where one of our characters is like... one of our DMs made a character for a new player, and then he's like, "Well, I give him a trident. No, I'll give him a bident,"
which implies the existence of a monodent.
Yeah, which is a spear. Tim.
I'm going to refer to spears from now on as monodents.
Right. So basically, it's just he has a spear. Same thing. He does 1d6 piercing damage or 1d8 piercing damage.
2 hands. The only thing to add is at the very end, he gets to add a d6 of fire damage.
And so that's just like a regular move. He has fire ray as well, as already mentioned. Range to 120 feet, one target, and it hits with 3d6 fire damage. So
it's sort of like firebolt, isn't it? The wizard cantrip. It seems like it's very similar. I think
firebolt is 2d8. Is it?
Firebolt is actually a d10, and it goes up at a couple levels.
Yeah, and then finally it has a little bit longer power. This one's pretty cool, actually. I didn't realize it had this until today. Fiendish Charm. One humanoid the Cambion can see within 30 feet of it must succeed a wisdom saving throw or be magically charmed for 1 day. So this is actually pretty similar to sort of the domination that we've seen the Aboleth and the Beholder both demonstrate. This is actually pretty cool. The charmed target obeys the Cambion's spoken commands. If the target suffers any harm from the Cambion or another creature, or receives a suicidal command from the Cambion, the target can repeat the saving throw, ending the effect on itself as a success. If its saving throw is successful, or if the effect ends, the creature is immune for 24 hours. This is a really cool power, and I can immediately see how you could use that as the sort of means of a Cambion acting on the world through its servants. I think it's so interesting that like it's this is one of the few examples of a power where it says that if they get a suicidal command, they get to repeat the saving throw rather than automatically succeeding. So you can fail and still basically it can force its servants to throw themselves upon their swords basically. Which is exactly. And of course, if they don't, then it just eats them. So,
I think it's obviously a little bit less effective than the old Beholder, the old Death Tyrant, for leveling reasons.
Yeah, and of course, the Aboleth had way more utility to do with dominating people and dominated them basically permanently. But of course, that was its whole thing because it's kind of Chthonian and spooky mind control, that sort of thing. So it's more on brand that the Aboleth can do it for longer, whereas the Cambion's really more to do with kind of temporarily overwhelming you.
I think it would be very effective in a fight because if you have a party, even if you have like the recommended challenge rating of 5, you have 4 level 5 characters. He uses this, if he succeeds on the person, that's immediately down to 3 and is a much more deadly threat to your players, which is super cool. I like that it can kind of play with the dynamic as a creature itself, which is nice.
That's a stat block then.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we want to jump on, or is there anything else you guys want to say about the stat block?
No, not really. That's it for that. So let's jump on the dessert train.
People all over dessert, join hands. Start a dessert train.
Feed dessert, make it a better place.
Okay, what are we doing? What is this?
It's okay. It's over.
What's happening right
it's
now?
over.
It's
That's
right.
the important thing.
Cool. So, how's a straight up fight with just one Cambion? How do we think that's going to turn out then?
Well, okay. Well, so I think that if you just have the recommended characters going up against the Cambion, it is going to be a relatively interesting fight. Like, they are pretty strong, and their to-hit bonuses are significant. Like, if you have any spellcasters, they are very likely to get hit by either the fire ray or a thrown spear or something. So they're going to be dealing damage left and right. Yeah. So, very strong opponent physically.
I feel like with this guy, because he has a flying speed, he's going to be in the air for most of it. So maybe the battle arena should be like I'm picturing like you're standing on elevated like rocks and stuff, and if you don't want to like slip or else you'll fall into a chasm, but he's flying around trying to hit you, so you're just still trying to get him and stuff. Definitely in some sort of elevated place where he has the upper hand would be a cool place to fight him, I think.
I think maybe in like maybe he's taken over like a church or something, just like a large halled church with the kind of support beams onto the walls so that he can kind of jump up onto those kind of things.
And it can be like your players, if they played enough like Bloodborne or Dark Souls, that they know once they go into a church they're fighting a boss.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a fight against the Cambion on its own is definitely going to involve the Cambion, staying at range. It's the range of its fire ray is double the length of its fly speed, so it can stay in the air and just pop people. It can do 2 fire rays a turn. It can stay at like, it can stay at somewhere like whatever. I mean, it could even literally stay at 120 feet. It could be at max range away from the party, and then at that stage, the only people who can really do anything are, archers and wizards.
Yeah,
Just another little bit of the puzzle to this guy. Like, you have to work out how you're gonna ground him. Like, once he starts flying, they're like, okay, he's a flyer. Let's get him on the ground.
Yeah. And what's cool is that if he, I guess, although I think if I was going to have this is the thing, right? You always have to think about how much you want to let the creatures fight tactically versus how much you want the encounter to be interesting. So I think what I might do is I might have the creature fly 90 feet up, and I do that for 2 reasons. First of all, it puts it in long range of thrown weapons, which means that people can attack it with thrown weapons with disadvantage.
Oh, yeah. That's like never used. So
it is never exactly. So that's nice to get to use that. And I think there's even like feats and abilities that let you ignore the long range disadvantage. So like, hey, if you have those for once, you can use them. So that's cool. But also, if it's 90 feet away from the party, then what it can do is, if it decides that its fire ray isn't having the intended effect, let's say for example you've got a really standard party, right? You've got like the fighter, the ranger, the wizard, and the cleric. So the cleric is maybe just patching people up after they get fire rayed. The fighter is maybe firing a crossbow, but it's not very good with the crossbow. Like, they're just kind of bored, or like they're throwing spears and missing because they have the disadvantage. The ranger has a bow and they're in their element, and then the wizard is like shooting off fireballs or whatever. If the Cambion decides this isn't effective enough, my fire rays aren't having the intended effect, I like the idea that the Cambion flies 60 feet down and then points at the fighter and uses fiendish charm and basically says, "Get him." And then flies up and then flies back up in the air. So like, now the ranger and the wizard and the cleric have to deal with the fighter coming for them and the Cambion at the same time. And like, ideally that means also the fighter, like, as long as it's all kind of good natured. I mean, it makes the fight tense and exciting, but it also lets the fighter do their dang thing.
Even if it is against
against the party. Rolling dice is still fun, even against your friends.
Because As disturbing as that would be in real life, in D&D, it's a bit of fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
you're just swinging at your mates, having a laugh.
yeah, I think as a general rule, certainly my sort of soft ruling is that whenever a player is dominated, it's immediately obvious to the other party members that they're dominated. Which is kind of a mixture of things. It can be that the spell itself is very obvious. It can be that their behavior is obvious. But like, even if all those things shouldn't be true, something I like to think is that like one of the things we ignore a lot in Dungeons and Dragons is that the people in your party have been traveling together for weeks, so they're probably very familiar with each other's habits. So the idea that like someone suddenly starts acting very differently, they'd probably notice that quicker than like strangers would.
And you could probably even give like a visual clue for that kind of thing. Like, because it is a spell, you could like darken their eyes, or like, I don't know, have like a sparkle around their eyes or something. Like some kind of visual clue, even if it's like not that obvious, or if it is entirely obvious.
Yeah. Well, in the benefit of the Cambion is that the rule is that the charmed creature obeys the Cambion's spoken commands. So there's a clear component there that's needed. Yeah, so that'd be a fun kind of little boss fight. How do we want to muck about with them? For some reason, one of the first ideas I came up with when I talked about the idea of them raising groups and like being born on the material plane, I really like the idea of a Cambion as a gang leader in a city.
Ooh, that's cool. Yeah, because they're inherently like not really strong compared to other demons. So, but he does have a power over regular human folk, so he would make a very good strong leader for like regular like humanoids in, like, as you said, like a gang leader in a city. Like that would be a very cool way of using him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking, the idea of like a big fish small pond sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what would we do to make so that's the thing. I think if we do that, right, if we say our Cambion is a gang leader in a city, I think that makes them a great low-level end boss for a low-level urban campaign. So the party start off first level in a city, and the whole campaign is them in the city dealing with different threats. Some would be obviously related to this Cambion's gang, but not necessarily all of them. I think that makes sense as well.
Because if there's one gang, there's probably going to be another, and they'll probably be contending with each other, but the Cambion will probably be getting the upper hand to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, that might even be kind of cool if you wanted to do like a Thieves Guild campaign. The idea that your party members are all part of this gang, right? Like, it doesn't matter what they're called, but like that they're part of this criminal gang, and then like this new criminal gang shows up, and for some reason they're like really, really good. Like, they're very effective, and like every time we try to have a street fight with them, we lose. And like, I even like the idea that because the Cambion has alter self, that the Cambion doesn't necessarily, like, nobody knows what it is exactly. It's just like Bill the Strong.
Yeah.
Bill the... Yeah, but yeah, and he keeps altering himself into different looks and stuff, and no one knows who he looks like, and just like he's shrouded in mystery. Like, that'll be very cool.
Yeah, it would. And it would be a great sort of like, the nice thing about that as a plot device is that you kind of you maintain a lot of, I don't know how to put, you maintain a lot of verisimilitude, I think. So the idea that like the gang is made up of mostly normal people, so of course a low level party are equivalent with them, but then the gang boss is like supernaturally strong and tough, and it doesn't really make sense why until you find out it's because they're not a person, they're actually a demon.
Yeah.
So suddenly you're like, well, of course they're not as, of course they're stronger than a normal person, they're a demon, right? Like that obviously makes sense. Which is cool, because then like, that does a good job of letting the party sort of feel unique, like that they're leveling up and getting stronger, and now they're able to fight demons, but like, and they're kind of leaving behind the people they were in a way. But additionally, it also sets up a great second adventure where the party are now, 6th level. They've just beaten this like, kind of demon gang boss, and you somehow, it could be as simple as this Cambion doesn't have the ability to plane shift. This Cambion has a mirror that goes to, the city of golden temptation. And it's like this massive metropolis filled with like demons and lost souls and mortals from all different dimensions and like, creatures from the plane of fire. And they're like, it's great here. We're not on fire. And all that stuff. and now the party get to take their like thieves gang, but bring them to like the greatest city in the multiverse and like try to rob like, the archdevils of all their valuables and stuff like that.
That's pretty cool. That is a very good idea. And with the alter self thing, I got a small idea for that. Like, maybe if in this campaign you're kind of sparring with the opposite, this new gang's crew, you could have like one of them kind of run away from the first engagement, and then in the next engagement you hear this other guy who you don't recognize go, "Not you again,"
Oh yeah.
Give it this kind of like little air of mystery and just like give little sprinkles, that kind of tasty stuff, because like they won't know who it is, but he'll know what they are.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, I can picture just at the end of this campaign and fighting like this gang leader, and just the players finding out that he's a demon, and that'll just be a very cool reveal. Like, oh, I wasn't actually expecting that. That's weird. Like,
yeah, that's true. That'd be really cool. When you're using your Cambion as a gang boss, don't forget they can still fly, and think about cool ways to use fiendish charm. That could be as simple as that the Cambion like interrogates or has sleeper agents in the players' gang, and you only find out at the end why they betrayed the party, which would be especially interesting if the players were very like upset at that betrayal. That the idea that like the people who betrayed you never really had a choice. That's kind of cool. Like they were controlled basically. And I think to touch on what you said before, DC, that idea that like you use a big kind of you use like a big church or whatever, and you need like room for them to fly. An abandoned church that's been retrofitted into a gang hideout would be a great final boss location.
or like a big clock tower or something.
Oh, that'd be so good. Yeah. And
Nice.
like the idea that like, the Cambion flies up and down, but the players can use like ropes and winches to like try and catch up with them, and like the bad guys are using the same ropes and winches, so you're having like these mid-air duels as the ropes fly past each other.
Yeah,
And like, someone tosses someone else so they get a hit on the Cambion, stuff like that.
that's cool.
Nice.
Lots of dynamicism. That'd be nice. That'd be very exciting.
Very dynamic combat. That's very cool.
Yeah, and that'd be cool as well, because you could even like that abandoned clock tower being so high up, and the idea that the top floor you can only reach it by flight explains like how the Cambion kept their mirror secret, and how like all the trappings of their identity is up there, and you only get to reach it at the end. That could be kind of cool.
Maybe a way that the Cambion's fiendish charm would work, like it could probably work. Maybe it'll work like on one of the relatively known leaders, because you know in society the way there are just known criminals just out there.
Yeah.
This Cambion could just walk up to one, use a fiendish charm thing, and make them out themselves. So like a head of whatever organization you're working with suddenly outs themselves, and then your like team's morale is suddenly knocked. Is maybe a way.
Or the Cambion uses its fiendish charm and makes your gang leader kill himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually that's a cool way of looking at it as well, where maybe or it's a different way, but maybe this new gang leader just showed up out of nowhere, and it's like, where did this guy come from? And he just killed another gang leader, and then he now has their gang or something. Or maybe he's
that'd be really cool.
Maybe he's posing as someone else or something. That's kind of maybe another angle you can look at it.
Yeah, but that's cool. The idea of that they inherit someone else's gang.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just the mystery is, where did this guy come from? Why, like, how did that happen? And like, how come no one knows exactly what's his deal?
Yeah, what's the deal with?
What's the deal? Cool.
Where's Cambion?
Anything else on that specific point?
I just realized there that the idea that you can use fiendish charm to order people to kill themselves would mean that if you had like a very high powered setting, a Cambion assassin who does that would be very cool.
Yeah. That's cool.
For some reason, what I was trying to think of things when you mentioned that, Daniel, was like the Cambion could like make markets just have random, really dramatic sales. I don't know why that came to my head.
Buy, sell, buy, sell.
Yeah, like, no, 80% off all of today. Where did this suddenly come from?
Tim, why would he...
Waldorf?
The Cambion can just say, give me that for free.
Yeah. But maybe it's like a supplier for a different gang or something.
Maybe he just believes in economy and that you should pump money.
Maybe
in.
he's a demon of capitalism.
They're
Maybe
true
the
demons.
demon is capitalism.
Turns out it's man.
Turns out it's man.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a bunch of things you can do with this guy, but honestly, I guess the coolest idea we have is the one him being the gang leader, and in an urban setting, because I actually really like that.
I think it's very cool too. The only final thing I'll mention is I know we kind of went over the spawn of Gratz very briefly, but one thing I do actually like, not specifically Gratz, but I do like that idea of like a lineage. So I like when a Cambion. It doesn't necessarily matter who, but I do like that idea that, like, you know, the idea of like evil having a sire and stuff like that. Like, you know, the idea that like this gang leader you fought in Arc 1 is actually the offspring of the boss you fight in Arc 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I like that sort of links. So it might be, you know, so when you make a Cambion, it might be worth just coming up very briefly with a characteristic of whoever created them. You know, you don't have to come up with anything dramatic or whatever, but even something as simple as having a name so that you know, like, so that if the players ask, or if you want to bring an enemy into the game later, you have something to call on. Because even though a lot of the book suggests that Cambions are just sort of low-level pawns of demons, demons can still take offense to you destroying their pawns. Like, it won't be something as... like familial as love and vengeance. It'll just be like, that was an asset I had and you've removed it, so now I'm going to remove you. Like, it can be very cold because like demons are kind of transactional.
And presenting the team with a name, I think, is very powerful, because as a person who relatively avidly takes notes,
yeah, that's true.
Names are what I really grab for, you know?
Yeah, names
that's a powerful thing.
Yeah, names are powerful things, absolutely. And they're great, and they're really useful in notes because they're a common frame of reference. They can come up in lots of different circles and have different meanings in different places.
I was just going to say, it also makes your villains and just your enemies in general feel more special. Because if you say, oh, it's a Cambion, like, oh, that's not in Tim name, but oh, it's Fred the Cambion. Sorry, that's the only name I can think of. And you're like, oh wow, he's special. He must be a special one or something. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Or like even just saying like,
in the world.
Like this is the spawn of Gorzabag or whatever.
Yeah.
And then whatever, like 3 games later, you find a magic axe, and it's like, oh, this is the Gorzabag's Bane, and you're like, hey, it's the same guy as the Cambion. Like, that's kind of cool.
Hey, I know that guy.
Hey, I've got him on LinkedIn.
So yeah, how about before we go tonight, guys, I might read up the Cambion player race of Unearthed Arcana. I guess it's very. I'm reading through it. It's very. It's very homebrewy. It's very Unearthed Arcana. So maybe not all people use it. But
like,
yeah,
there's like 8. There's like 10 abilities here.
So what I'll say, like say before we go into this, is that Cambions are evil. So maybe don't give them to all your players. Like maybe if you're doing a specific,
probably wouldn't pair well with clerics.
Yeah, definitely not. And maybe give like an evil campaign or something. But so if your player comes up to you and says, I want to play Cambion, to just think twice with that one. Don't say, okay, sure, play whatever you want, man. It's like, just make sure you have a think about that one. So cool. So Cambion traits: ability score increase. Your strength, dexterity, and charisma score each increases by 1. So there you go. Pretty solid one. Cambion age: Cambions mature at the same rate as humans, but live up to 300 years. These demons, whatever, makes sense. Alignment: basically they tend to be evil. That's it.
Yeah, that's basically what it boils down to.
There's a sentence there that is literally, Cambions are born evil.
Yeah.
And it mentions how those descended from devils tend to be lawful. If they're from demons, they tend to be chaotic. And if they're from succubi or incubi, it's anybody's game.
Yeah. Size, same height as humans, or you can say that whatever humanoid, the same size of whatever humanoid.
Parent, yeah,
of the parent. Speed is 30. which is actually
The same, yeah.
Yeah, but its flight is 30
Yeah.
because they kind of had to nerf it for player races.
And you can't wear heavy armor and fly.
Yeah, that's interesting. I thought that'd actually be a pretty cool thing to. I don't know if you like would bring it in, or if there's any reason to bring it in for a enemy Cambion, but it might be an interesting thing to think of with your enemy. Dark vision. He has 60 feet dark vision.
Yep.
Fiendish presence.
It's basically that, like, when a paladin uses divine sense, you pick up as a fiend. You show up as a fiend because you're a normal creature for the purposes of like healing and stuff like that. It's just like whenever someone tries to detect evil, you show up.
Hellish tricks. You get to choose one of these cantrips: control flames, produce flame, thaumaturgy, and vicious mockery. Viscous mockery. Yeah. So you just get a free cantrip.
You just get a free cantrip, and your spellcasting ability is charisma for that. Unsurprisingly, just like the Cambion in the book. And then so that's at 3rd level. You get that cantrip. At 5th level, you get one fiendish spell. You get Burning Hands, Charm Person, Command, Disguise Self, or Hellish Rebuke. And you can cast it basically once per day. That's interesting. You do not need material components for your selected spell, but you may choose to use them. I don't know. Okay. It's interesting that that's there.
And then his final little ability there is a Dark Blessing, which is dark forces favor your bloodline, which is basically you can react to gain +3 to your AC for that attack once per short rest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
That is cool, but I really don't get why they have to put that there.
That is a reference to the Fiendish Blessing, because the Cambion in the Monster Manual has 16 charisma, which means a charisma modifier of +3. So instead of giving you a constant bonus to your AC equal to your charisma, they're basically saying, like, as a reaction, you can get that same bonus that the Monster Manual Cambion has.
Right. Yeah.
That's
okay.
cool.
Yeah. That's a cool way of looking at it, but I just think that it's just more things. It's just,
yes. No, I totally agree. This is in fairness, like, the fact of the matter is that it's not that complicated. You basically get 3 spells, and then you're evil and you can fly.
But like, I guess I wasn't really saying that it's more complicated. I'm just saying it's kind of more like, you get plus to your AC.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just a lot of text mostly, and it's definitely the kind of thing that you'd forget about.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of cool. But languages, you can speak, read, and write Common and either Abyssal or Infernal. So
you don't get
I guess
both.
you can.
Yeah.
You can choose whatever parent, I guess, wherever they're from, as we mentioned already, and that's it. Yeah. So it's very homebrewy. So I guess ask your DM before you want to use one of these guys. But yeah, there you go. That is the Cambion player race.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be. I don't know. I think it's just because of the fact that I like to homebrew stuff. My instinct would be, if someone's like, I want to play Cambion, first of all, I'd be like, why don't you play a tiefling?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And my second instinct would be like, yeah, okay, we'll work something out, and I'd probably just make it myself. Not because I dislike anything here, just because it's just how I like to roll. Because, like, the thing about the Cambion is that a lot of the powers in the Cambions on the Cambion's Monster Manual page they're quite powerful and they're quite significant. So I'd almost be inclined to say that if you wanted to play a Cambion, you'd almost have to commit levels to it. So, like, you'd almost have to, like, take a level in Cambion, and, like, so, you know, your first level in Cambion would get you, like, the first level of spells, and then your second level might get you the Fiendish Blessing, and then your third level might give you the Plane Shift, that sort of thing. But the idea that, like, rather than leveling into fighter or cleric or whatever, you have to level into Cambion, or maybe you give up feats or ability score bonuses or some other thing, but you're basically like, you're almost multi-classing in a way.
Yeah, and also, as you mentioned with tieflings, they can have fiend parents as well. So they can kind of have the same kind of heritage as a Cambion. So you're right, it does make sense to just maybe play tiefling instead and keep the Cambions for, like, the more pure devilly guys. I guess the only difference is that the Cambions have wings and they can fly. So that's kind of a thing.
I think that's it. But like, you know, you can just like I think what I'd say then, like because I'm at the stage now where if my player was like, I want to play a Cambion, I'd be like, why don't you play a tiefling? If they didn't say because I want wings, I would say, is it because you want wings? Because if they say yes, I'll be like, all right, I'll get you wings.
Yeah, you can have a tiefling with wings then. Like
You'll
that'll be a
get
pretty
wings.
cool
Just
image.
chill. Like,
Yeah, just
Calm down. I need wings, Daniel.
like
yeah.
the other thing I will say is the Cambion is a great example of a monster. If like one of the ideas that I've always liked, and it's a little bit easier to see how you do it in a game like Pathfinder, which is a little more complicated, but Pathfinder has a kind of clearer templating where like it's more obvious where everything. So like, you know, if I look at a Pathfinder stat block, I can eventually figure out where everything it has comes from. Whereas in 5th edition, it's a bit more like the designers are just doing what feels right, which is I think kind of how it should be. And a lot of the times it's very similar. But to get to my point, eventually, Jesus, the thing that I've always kind of liked is the idea that like rather than everyone let's play D&D, I'm going to be a level 1 fighter, I'm going to be a whatever. Like it's like okay, everyone, we're going to play D&D. Everyone pick a CR 5 or lower monster, and that's your starting character. You know what I mean? Like I love that idea that someone's like, okay, well I'm like a half vampire, and someone else is like, cool, I'm a Cambion, and someone's like, I'm a giant. You know, like. And it's just a weird party full of monsters or whatever, like just a cool monster squad. I've always thought that'd be so much fun.
Yeah. Isn't there like a on DM's Guild, someone made like a homebrew, like everything in the monster manual, but as a player, race.
I don't
someone
know.
like some.
cool.
I think I remember hearing about that, and it's just ridiculous. Like it's up there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean.
I want to be a Periton. I want to play as a Periton.
But like, you know, I think Mac Oville found that quote from like really early D&D where someone asked like Gary Gygax, like what if one of my players wants to be a dragon? Gary was just like, yeah, sure, but make it clear to them you're going to be a level 1 dragon.
Yeah.
You're going to be like the worst dragon you've ever seen, and you're going to earn becoming a good dragon. But you don't start at good because you picked the word dragon.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's about all the time we have, actually.
Yeah, man.
Any closing statements on Cambions?
I think they'd make good servants to bigger guys as well. You know, like just as like fodder, essentially. Like at higher levels, you're just going to be able to like bat them aside relatively easily. You know,
Yeah.
like they are still a challenge, but you know, they're a good like soldier to higher level things, I think, which kind of lends itself to their inheritance.
Yeah. And maybe if you want to go like super like dramatic with it, and maybe if there is a Cambion who's like serving like a higher demon, then maybe your humanoid player character's like, no, trust your human instincts and join the sides with us. Maybe go with that kind of angle. That might be a bit of fun,
Nice.
like a bit of over dramaticness. And then maybe he does go onto your side and helps you fight him instead because he learns the error of his ways.
Appeal to their humanity. You know?
Oh yeah, exactly. So maybe something like that too. Daniel, any closing statements?
If a Cambion and an Azer had a kid, that'd be pretty cool.
Ooh, yeah.
Sort of like a bronze-skinned, half demon, half fire elemental. You know.
Cambazian.
Cambazian.
Cambazian is
That's
good.
cool.
Well
Cambazian.
done.
That's probably the best we're gonna get. Nice one.
Someone homebrew that one, please, for us.
Cambazian. Nice. Yeah, that's a good one.
That's cool.
I just wanted to recognize that we never covered the 4th edition stuff, and I apologize to anyone who was interested in that. Do you want me to do it right now, real quick?
Real quick.
Yeah, there's 2 types of Cambion, the Cambion Hell Sword and the Cambion Hellfire Mages. Common thread there, not surprising. The main cool thing is that the Cambion Hell Sword has an ability called Whirlwind Charge, where they charge a group of enemies, and then everyone in reach, they get to hit them at the same time, which is cool.
Nice.
And they also have an ability called Triumphant Surge, which is whenever they reduce an enemy to half health or reduce them to 0, they get back some hit points. Those would be cool. Steal those for your gang boss. So yes, if you've enjoyed this, you can subscribe. We're on our website. We've got the RSS feed. We're also on iTunes. We're on Stitcher. We're on Player FM. We might be on other places, but those are the 3 I know of. If there's something that you use that we're not on, like let us know, because I don't know. I don't know how to do this.
Yeah, we're always interested in like which way people listen to us and which way is the best one for us to like focus on, I guess. Like
Exactly, yeah. And like it's not elitism, it's literally we have no idea what we're doing.
yeah,
No, we're consummate professionals.
If you can also listen to us on our website, creatureclubpodcast@gmail.com. You can comment below the episode to let us know your thoughts. If you've used Cambions, if you've played a Cambion, if you've changed how they operate, or if you've used their rules to do something different, if you've confronted a spawn of Grats or some other demon lord, let us know.
yeah. The website is creatureclubpodcast.com and the email is creatureclub@gmail.com. You messed up there, Daniel.
I did mess up.
But that's fine. I think that people got the picture.
Okay, cool. And we've got a contest. We've got a contact us form on our website, but we've also got a Gmail. The things on the contact us form get to us through our Gmail, but whatever you're more comfortable with. The Gmail is obviously better for sending us files. If you have any homebrews you'd like us to talk about, or homebrews you found, but we'd like, if they're not yours, we'd love to know the original source because we'd like to give credit where it's due. And if you have any thoughts on the episode at all, you can just email them to us. If you have enjoyed the episode and you're subslibbled and you're all caught up, you could recommend it to a friend. If you play in a D&D group or wherever you might play, at work, at college, just with friends from school, you could recommend the podcast to them. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, maybe if your players are asking, hey, where'd you get all those cool ideas for your encounters from? Like, I'll from these guys.
I'll never
Creature
tell.
Club.
Winky face.
Yeah, but yeah, maybe if you don't tell, then you'll get more secret ideas that you can use. But also, we don't have any listeners, so come on, pick either one.
No, I think unashamedly stealing is one of the things that makes the kind of D&D stuff really cool. Like, it'll initially be, yes, I'm stealing from this person, but like it gets the creative juices flowing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like in our D&D group, we swap DMs like relatively frequently, so like we bring each other's best to the fore, and then we take little bits and bobs from each other. So it's a communal experience.
Yeah. But also, you don't want like your players going like, that's from Creature Club, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that was something else I was going to say. If you're a player and you listen, recommend it to your DMs and be nice if they use ideas that you've heard on Creature Club, because it's only fair. But absolutely, like, when we do these episodes, I like to think that we basically we lay the groundwork and we build the boat, but then you get in and sail. So like it's still all you.
We can bring a horse to water, but we can't drink the horse.
We can't make it sail.
How many weird extended metaphors are we going to go for?
Excellent. Well, if you do that, guys, we'll be very appreciative.
Absolutely.
More people listen is good, but the less people listen is good too. Whatever, like whoever listens is good, but we want to help out as many people as we can. Anyways, great. Thanks for listening, guys. I have been Mikey.
I have been Tim.
And I've been Dan.
Stay cool.
Or not.
Or not.